What is going on? I want to welcome you from half court for today, Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023. I am your host, Sean Murphy, alongside my guy, Jeff Ifrady. Jeff, what it do, baby?
What it do, fellas? Nice to see y'all. I know we're kind of coming off of the All-Star weekend, and I know we have a lot of thoughts on that. But other than that, the weekend was great, honestly. Tuned into the dunk contest, got to see my guy Mac McClung make some noise. So shout out to him. It was nice to see him win that. He almost, by the way, if it wasn't for Lisa, he would have had a perfect round every round. But he ended with technically a 49.5, or was it 49.7 that round? So he didn't get the perfect score. He was robbed. But other than that, 3-point contest, it was just a nice weekend, honestly. As much as we're going to talk about the All-Star game in general, but not having basketball or football, that's all I had. All right. So
Yeah, for sure.
Adjustments.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? There's always things to tune into. You tune in for All-Star weekend. But of all of the All-Star weekends we've had, this sure was one of them.
Yeah.
But joining us as well is our guy, Troy Sergey. Troy, you're actually at the hosting site of next year's All-Star game. So this is actually pretty convenient. I feel like we need to get you on the committee for next year's game to figure out how we can get this thing back in shape.
Yeah. I'm the go-to guy, I guess, for this one. Looking forward.
They're
to
knocking
that.
on your door. They're like, Troy, get in here.
Already got the countdown going. 364 days now to the All-Star games here in Indianapolis. The whole city's been doing construction even since last summer. I think even this summer they're going to do more. The whole city is now legit changing for this weekend. Not this weekend, but All-Star Weekend 2024. It's going to be a great time. Hope both of you guys can make it down. It's just a short drive. And then the year after that, it sounds like it's in Milwaukee, which is another Midwest city. So realistically, there's a good chance all three of us, at the right circumstances, could at least be not at the game, but in the circles outside of the arena. Anything's possible here in the Midwest, guys.
Oh, and hey, who knows? Maybe from half court gets to a point where maybe we are at the game, Troy.
Yeah,
you never know.
I never know.
But speaking of, I mean, it's gonna have to be worthwhile being at, because we're gonna have to dive in and talk about that game, the entire weekend, everything that's happening in the NBA, because this is From Half Court. Each and every week we talk all things NBA basketball, all things Detroit Pistons, and everything more. If you like that, be sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends, and join in the conversation down below. You can join in the conversation as well by joining our From Half Court Discord. There's a link to that in the description below. But also, be sure you're following my guys on Twitter at Jeff Ifrady and at Troy Sergey 44. But guys, let's get right into it. NBA All-Star Weekend is come and gone, and it was like if there was the definition of mid in the dictionary, it would show NBA All-Star 2023 as the definition. I'll say the Rising Stars Challenge was awesome. On Friday night, the Jordan Rising Stars Challenge. I personally think that's the best event of the NBA All-Star Weekend, and it's not even close. But I want to get your guys' opinion. Jeff, you just talked a little bit about how you tuned in all weekend. What were your overarching thoughts? And do you think we officially have an NBA All-Star problem?
I think you nailed it by saying the Rising Stars Challenge was more entertaining. And you kind of have the answer to that, right? You know why it's more entertaining, because guys are trying to make a name for themselves. So they're going out there and they're playing hard. It's the complete opposite with the actual All-Star game on Sunday. My personal favorite has always been the dunk contest. I know the last couple of years it hasn't had as much juice since Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine. But still, other than that, you got the three-point competition. But it's All-Star Weekend needs a little revamp, in my opinion. It does.
Yeah.
And just watching it this weekend, watching the All-Star game, and having a old clip of Kobe pop up on my timeline. And it really brought me back, because it made me remember how Kobe and guys like Kobe of that generation treated the All-Star game. It was a completely different feeling going into it. Like Kobe put it perfectly. He's like, guys and fans all around the world want to tune in to see the best players on planet Earth play a pickup game essentially. And by pickup game, I mean I ain't talking about what I witnessed Sunday. I mean, I've seen more competitive basketball at LA Fitness than what I saw on Sunday.
Oh
so,
yeah,
again,
I mean,
and I don't want to act like I'm absolved of why they don't try. Obviously, they don't want to be injured. I get all of that. But at the end of the day, what's it going to hurt? I mean, this is the only time we get to see the best of the best compete. And you saw that, God rest Kobe's soul, but after Kobe passed, you saw that All-Star game. It had more juice at that game because it felt like they wanted to represent. That's when the whole Kobe, the 24 points at the end of the game, they have to chase the final score. That was implemented. But ever since then, it's just kind of gotten worse. It was basically a glorified shoot-around, if I'm being honest, Sean.
Yep. Jaylen Brown, after the game, called it a glorified layup line. Mike Malone called it the worst game of basketball ever played, which I think is 100% true.
Oh, yeah.
And when you talk about the fact that, you brought up, like you're right. We aren't, we're not ignorant to why players don't try, and we're ignorant to why players aren't particularly thrilled with the All-Star game. And listen, I understand that, as a fan, I can't understand what an All-Star weekend is like, from the media obligations to the marketing, to the marketing things that you have to be doing, because you have to be like, just go. And I think the way it's set up, as JJ Redick brought up, the way it's set up, there's no way there can be a competitive game. But there is something to be said about Adam Silver and the rest of these guys just continuing to allow things before March or April to not matter. If we just keep saying that, like, not only does the regular season no longer matter, but the All-Star game doesn't matter either. Like, really, if you're telling the NBA casual base that you don't have to tune in until the playoffs, what are we doing here? And I get if players aren't thrilled about the experience, and I get, and I get if they don't want to play a competitive game, fine. Then don't put on the game. Then don't put on the weekend, because it's not like those jerseys that you're selling are any cheaper. It's not like those tickets to go to the game are any cheaper. In fact, the cheapest tickets, according to Vivid Seats, a couple weeks ago for this All-Star game, started at $1,200. Imagine if you spent $1,200 to be in the nosebleeds for that.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I understand, and we keep getting to this thing of, we have to appreciate what the players do, and we have to talk about how do we incentivize the players, and we understand, because I get it. Things happen. It's complicated. It's, players, they're asked to do a lot, but you also get paid a lot, and there's long enough of a lineage of the All-Star game to show why this matters, what this significance is, what this game means. And again, we're not asking these guys to go out and compete all four quarters like it's the NBA Finals. Just for that final target score quarter. Just those final 12 or whatever minutes. Just give us something compelling to watch.
Yeah.
Act like you give up. For a lack of better terms.
And what makes things even more disappointing, Sean, is the fact that we've talked over and over again in this podcast about how deep the league is. And really the All-Stars, I mean, like you said, Jeff, of course, they're the best of the best, but they've always been the best of the best. But now, when you have such a deep league as the NBA is right now, and you have all those guys on the court, you have potential of having some of the greatest All-Star. Last night could have been the greatest All-Star game of all time. It could have been. It could have been if players were playing hard. But they chose not to.
Yeah. Well, and again, I don't want to put it all on the players, because I think, again, it comes back to with Adam Silver and the NBA, the NBA executives and ownership, you have a real problem of how do you get these guys to care about the entire weekend? Because now, John Morant, he came out and was like, oh yeah, no, I'm not doing the dunk contest. No, I'm never doing it. And it's and you think of, and it's at first I get upset and I'm like, I get angry, but it's all it takes is 5 seconds of brain power to think why. Guys, all these players now are moguls, are entrepreneurs, are building brands. What benefit do they have to go out in the dunk contest? If John Morant fails in the dunk contest, all that's going to be out on Instagram and TikTok are memes and videos making fun of him. And like, it's only going to, harm his brand. But on the other hand, guys didn't do it back in the day for their brand or for anything like that. They did it to compete. And granted, there were less opportunities and less stages for players back then. So maybe you just take what was given to you at the time. But at the same time, I mean, as currently constructed, the All-Star Weekend is just insanely broken. If there's anything that's symbolic of it, it's the skills challenge. Guys, what the is the skills challenge? Can someone explain it to me? Because I can't.
Well, it used to be the Taco Bell skills challenge. Remember that back?
Oh yeah, when it was actually good. Back when Steve Nash and Chris Paul would go at each other's throats in the 2000s.
Yeah. And I'm gonna be honest too. The one thing I can say that I've liked or I've enjoyed is not only the drafting process but televising it. I've actually enjoyed that part of it because I mean it feels like a pickup game. But at the end of the day, you could lead the donkey to the water. You can't make it drink. So it's like you can get these guys on a court and do it their way, but at the end of the day, they got to be. And I hate using that word or that sentence of we have to find a way to incentivize the players. Aren't they incentivizing these guys enough? Like for them to just go out and try, like that's all they're asked to do is to simply give effort. It's not like we're asking these guys to they're not going to war. Like they're acting like they're going to war. You're just going to play basketball. They just want to see it. I'm not asking to play like the NBA Finals. Just give a damn. That's all people are asking for. It's that simple.
And so maybe the solution isn't to, maybe the solution isn't to have them go out and play this exhibition game. Maybe the solution is you go out and you mess with the format or you mess with the formula. Maybe you do like what the NFL did this past year where you don't want to watch these guys play like flag football or anything like that, right? But if you were to put something together and to get guys to buy into something like an all-star, like an all-star showcase 3-on-3 tournament where players get to, choose who they're teaming up with and the winning team gets this massive cash prize, but also money to the charity of their choice. Like there's got to be something that you have to do differently or get guys, to care about something or just make the all-star an honor that you earn. Fully make it a break and bring in professional dunkers to do a dunk contest and do something then because this whole thing of trying to keep forcing this issue and quite frankly wasting the fans' time because that's the real piece of it all is we're just trying to get the players to care and to care and to care and this is all supposed to be all about the fans. They clearly don't want to do it. And so at a certain point I as a fan, when I was hearing about how bad the All-Star game was, I didn't watch because I, as a fan, over the last few years, have learned with that game, they don't care about my time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's apparent.
And part of that too, and it's funny because the highlight of the night for me watching the All-Star game was watching Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown go one-on-one. And that made me think for a second. There's got to be a way you have to instill some sort of competitiveness among these guys. Once it becomes competitive, that's when my eyes are drawn to the screen. Like once I saw Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown going at it one-on-one and there is your brand kind of on the line, like, oh, Jaylen Brown got you or Jason Tatum got you. I'm tuned in. So how about this, Adam Silver? Because Adam Silver's spending a bunch of time trying to put people into the NBA app. Let's focus more on the All-Star game itself. How about we do this? Take out the skills challenge. No one gives a damn about that, quite frankly. And replace it with some sort of formatted, and I don't have the specifics, obviously.
Kill the dunk contest, too, by the way, at this point. I'm sorry. But even though
if no one's going to do it, I mean, you're probably right. I mean, if we have to see Trey Murphy, great player, but I mean,
a G League player wins.
Yeah, and then as much as I love Mac McClung, we can't rely on him to come in every single year and save the dunk contest for us.
So do a one-on-one tournament. That's what I want to see. And I don't know, again, will players do it is the next question. Probably not. But if you can get some sort of one-on-one or even 3-on-3 to your point, Sean, and get some sort of competitive nature kind of started among these guys, I would be more in tuned. But watching Jaylen Brown put it, a glorified layup line, nobody wants to see that. And not only that, nobody wants to pay money for that. I'm surprised there was as big of a turnout as there was.
Well, and it's like even if you have to make the break even longer, like even if you have to make that break so exhaustingly long to make that weekend be something, fine. Like for whatever reason, all the time, like with this All-Star weekend, we have games leading up until Wednesday, and then expect guys to be ready to go for events on Friday. Like, I'm okay with them straight up taking off on a Sunday, having the event start the following Friday,
right?
And then them taking an entire week off after that, if that means we get a good All-Star break. Like, if we get 2 weeks of no basketball, like the week before and the week after, for that to mean we get a competent 3-day weekend of an all-star experience, fine. But that's the thing is like the way they have it set up right now is clearly made players, because like you even have players like Nikola Jokic pretty much straight up said after the game, like, yeah, I'm not built for this game. Like, I don't want to be here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, granted, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be into this 100%, right? But like, at the same time, like, let's remember why you're there in the first place. Right. Yes, partially because you were voted by your peers and because of the excellence and everything that you achieved this season, but you were also voted by the fans. And when do they come into the equation? Because Troy, Jeff, last time I forgot, and I know people hate when we make this argument, we're the ones that pay to come to these events. Right. We're the ones that pay to turn in on a night-to-night basis.
Real quick, Troy, I just want to mention this before you go. It's funny that you have to incentivize players for the All-Star game, but when their career's all said and done and you're trying to make the Hall of Fame, they love that little All-Star asterisk next to their name.
Oh, they love to mention how many appearances they had. Yeah.
So that's fine. But the actual game, it's like, just get this over with.
Yeah. Right. Sean, I was going to ask you, and Jeff, you can join in as well. Do you think the NBA lost a little something when they decided to go away from East versus West? Because if I remember in, middle school days and even earlier than that, early 2000 teens, the East versus West was what made things fun because it's conference against conference. Like, as a Pistons fan, you always cheered for the East. Even if you didn't have a player on the Pistons on the team, it was that conference rivalry. And now we always talk about how deep the East is now. And in the past, the West was always the deep conference and teams rising and the competitiveness with playoff seeds. Don't you guys think that the conference battles in the NBA was what made the All-Star game pretty fun back in the day?
Well, to answer your question, Troy, I don't think I think that like the way that we consume basketball or the way that fandom in the basketball world has changed significantly since they made that change. But also it's important to remember part of why they made that change too was because at the time how unbelievably lopsided it was between the West and the East, and how many years in a row the West was absolutely kicking the living out of the East in the All-Star game. Like Jeff said too, I do think that like, even though to your point, Troy, there is missing that like rivalry of the conferences and like the kind of like the bragging right aspect of that. There is like, if done right, the draft thing is insanely entertaining. Mm-hmm. And if they actually, stop trying to protect these guys' egos and allow them to have a guy get picked last, then it would actually be really fun. But again, I think, whether part of it is because of the conference thing, whether part of it is because of, how it's scheduled, again, my whole thing was like, I always saw the final part of, that final part of that fourth quarter, the entire reason they implemented the target score was to bring competition. But the reason they made the target score to add 24 was to make the thing honor Kobe. And when I go online and I see that during that part, guys are chucking up half court shots in the final minutes, like Damian Lillard and Donovan Mitchell are exchanging half quarters. I'm like, all right, that's when I get a little pissed. Because when we start making something that was intended to honor Kobe no longer matter, that gets to me right here. And that's a little different.
I don't think it's more of the optics, rather it's the players. Like I think I agree, you get the East and the West, the competition, but at the same time, I agree with Sean to your point about the picking process. Like when guys get picked last and they feel like, I'm not a guy who deserves to be picked last. You get some of that motivation. I like it. You get to see who picked first. Like there's a little bit of drama involved. So I don't mind it. But at the end of the day, Troy, like you can do whatever you want to do. If these guys don't want to go out there and compete, they're not going to compete. You know what I mean? And again, this is the most player empowered league there is.
Yeah, and that was the other thing. They also changed it at the time as another way to try to get these guys to get interested.
Yeah,
like it was another way to try to incentivize players, because they just keep having to find ways every few years to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
But yeah, I
do believe the NBA is, for a long time, and I still believe this, in terms of the entire weekend, you can make an argument the NBA, if you want to go with the NHL or the MLB, I would go with the NBA in terms of the most interesting All-Star weekend. I love tuning into it. But over the years, they've had an opportunity to kind of step away with the Pro Bowl turning into what it is. Like they were able to, or they had an opportunity to kind of branch off and be the best All-Star weekend. It's been nothing but stagnant. Like all of the All-Star games for really all sports aren't the most entertaining, but I don't think you can make an argument the NBA is the best anymore with how it's been shown.
Yeah. And like the problem is, I think they all, like, unfortunately, like all the All-Star breaks, I think of all the All-Star games and breaks and everything, they've all kind of taken a hit.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
and what I'll say about the MLB, the one thing, the bonus of it is in baseball, you can't really go half fast. Like you can't go half fast. Like in the NBA, you can kind of just stroll down the court, not play defense. Like baseball, you got to try. And they used to do that thing where the winner of that game would have home field advantage in the World Series. Obviously, they're not going to do that with the NBA, but there was always some sort of incentive. The NBA, I think at this point, you're kind of out of options. Like, how do you, if the Kobe, the 24 final score can't get these guys to play hard in tradition for Kobe, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, like, I would just love, I would love to hear from a top level player. To me, the most influential voice and the most educational voice we could get in the entire league, on the problem of this game is LeBron, because he's been a part of just about every single one since 2000 and 2004. He's been a part of it when it was in the conferences. He was in a part of it. He's drafted in every single one. I would be interested to hear from his perspective what that experience is like and why he thinks it can't be competitive. Because clearly, like Mike Malone said, like there were guys that tried to get guys to get going, but it's like, from the sounds of it, like guys, were, like back in the day were required to show up on Friday for All-Star weekend. And this year there were multiple guys that showed up on Saturday. Some didn't even show up until Sunday. And, again, like it's just, we keep doing all these things to make it better for the players. At a certain point, one of the players have some onus to actually have some pride to make that up, make that something worth tuning into. Because again, I'm sick of feeling taken for granted for that event, because it's getting sickening, man.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
A one-on-one contest might be pretty fun.
Dude, now, I don't know what that would entail, but imagine, again, we're talking about the dunk contest. If some of the best players in the NBA, the most athletic, actually join, like John Moran, it'd be entertaining. Like the one-on-one competition, I don't know who would participate. So I mean, you might have, two guys, middle of the league guys, one-on-one, which would still be entertaining, but you want Kevin Durant, you want like the best guys, in participating, and I just don't think it'd happen. So
Pat Bev versus Hamidou Diallo.
That's what you'd end up seeing. Like, So again, like Sean said, and we've been echoing, it's up to the players. Like there's nothing the NBA can really do at this moment besides the players stepping up and saying, you know what, let's take ownership. Let's try and put on a show.
But like, even imagine if guys from the Rising Stars Challenge, like even imagine like Kenny Lofton imagine if we got Kenny Lofton versus Scoot Henderson in a 1v1 matchup. Like just two, like even guys like that are just both, incredibly hungry, play two completely different positions. How would that go? You know what I mean? Like there's like so many different things you can do. Like there's enough guys out there who are hungry. Like, yeah, there's a lot of guys, who weren't selected to be all-stars this weekend, but like, are you telling me guys like Mikal Bridges wouldn't want a chance to like show what he can do? I feel like he's made for a one-on-one contest. You know what I mean? Like there's just, in my opinion, I think there's just a lot of different things you can do. And listen, at the end of the day, this is all going to come down to, executives. I personally am going to stop being nearly as invested and probably going to stop tuning into this event at a certain point if they stop or if they just don't do anything about it. Because yeah, guys, it was that bad. Like this was like, it's not even a question to me. This was the worst all-star game of all time. No question.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to dispute that.
Like,
no way.
And again, I'm not even going to dispute that it was the worst game of basketball ever played because it was.
You know what that means? No. Your cousin who's on the freshman team had a better showing than what we just witnessed with some of the best players on planet Earth.
Yeah, your cousin Billy.
That's what I mean.
Your cousin Billy, who's in kindergarten, can't even potty train yet. He had a better game last week than these all-stars put on over the weekend. So
those guys were jumping at loose balls. So
congratulations. I'm sure the city of Salt Lake, Salt Lake City, Utah, I'm sure they were super thrilled, with all the hundreds of millions of dollars that they put into this event. I'm sure they were thrilled with how much effort those stars put out there on their court. I'm sure they were.
And I haven't really. I mean, what's been Adam Silver's big? Has he's taught? I don't know if he said anything today, as of recording Monday, about performance. Yeah,
no,
because but what we're saying right now, Sean, isn't out of this world. Meaning that a lot of NBA fans think the same way we are. Like we're not a small majority or
I don't think what we're saying is the minority. I think what we're saying is the consensus.
Correct. Yeah. So why, I mean, you would think the consensus of NBA fans are all on the same page and your commissioner is not even going to say anything.
And then because why he's not saying anything, because he can't come out and be like, these guys got to try. Like he could. And I think he mention that like last year or 2 years ago where he's like, well, you're hoping guys overall give more effort. I swear I'd have to find the quote, but like this year, what is he going to say? I mean, he's in a tough spot. Like he really is at this point.
Yeah. And
because he's always empowered the players, but now it might come back to bite him in the ass a little bit.
Yeah, man. And again, like I understand that, like that guys, again, we could go down this whole track all day. The point of it is it's just got to be better.
Yep.
But guys, for now, let's dive in. One thing that I said that we were going to do this episode was we were going to do a new tier list of what we think NBA teams are going to be doing now at this point of the season. But before we do that, we got to take a look at the tier list that we made back in August. So this podcast came out August 3rd, 2022. And one thing that we did not account for one thing that did not happen when we put together this list, Donovan Mitchell was still a Utah Jazz. We had no idea where he was going to go, but he was a Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
So with that being said, are you guys ready to see what our list looked like on August 3rd, 2022?
Yeah, I remember a few of them, but I'm curious to see that put together.
All right.
Nervous.
All right. Well, ready or not, here we go. So first off, we had contenders, high seed, mid, play-in, and going for Victor. And right off the bat, there's a couple things on here where you go, oof, we messed up. However, overall, I think we nailed
No,
everything.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, well, that's actually not that bad.
No,
Yeah,
really,
like-
it really isn't.
Like the only things I would say that I would say that we were way off on here, the Kings,
Denver.
obviously, but yet again, who saw the Kings coming, right? The Cavaliers, but yet again, we didn't know they were going to have Donovan Mitchell, so I would say that's a valid
Yeah.
reasoning to not have them up there. The Denver Nuggets are contenders.
Yeah.
I would say that they deserve to be over the Warriors right now.
Yeah.
And then obviously, as much as I don't want to point it out, our Pistons in the play-in spot right here.
We were
We always-
speaking from the heart, not
Yeah,
not our
of
mind.
course there's
Well,
no
so we had a
bias.
healthy Cade Cunningham at the
Yeah.
time too, right? And it was August, so like, cut us a slack. You know what I mean?
You can go ahead and swap out the Thunder for the Pistons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, swap the Thunder with the Pistons. This isn't a bad list. It's really not.
Chicago might be a little more to play in team. Did we mention Chicago?
Yep, Chicago. We had them in mid. Yeah, they're probably playing. And then I would say
mid.
Yeah,
we're right there.
Utah would still be in play-in. They're not going for Victor, but overall, guys, I think we did pretty good.
It's solid. I know we struggled a lot at the top for contenders, and
Yep.
but we honestly, to be honest with you, I know that we talked about the Warriors, but even all healthy, like those are the contenders. If you want to throw the Nuggets in there, that's fine. But we did pretty good. I think for the most part, we nailed most of these.
Yeah. Do you still think the 76ers belong up there?
I don't think I did at the time either, but I think we just kind of figured technically they're a contender. Can they win it? I don't think so, but
we thought that we were going to see peak James Harden and peak Joel Embiid, I think.
Yeah, that's true. And I
technically they are, but are they? Like,
right.
I don't know.
High seed.
Yeah, I'd probably go high seed.
And Miami, it would be a mid.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they're not a high seed. They've not been very great.
I remember we really struggled with Toronto too.
I guess the only other thing I would change on here as well. I mean, there's another team that I can't believe we just said is not on that contenders list. Guys, Phoenix. They got Kevin Durant since we last made this list.
Yeah, but also the
last made this list.
The last game that we saw from the Suns was their game.
It was ugly
blowout, and DeAndre Ayton was the future was unknown. So
that's true. That is true. But what I'm saying is, if we were to make the list today,
you'd bump them up,
right?
And
which we're gonna make the list today.
They're
there.
Put Golden State and Philadelphia down.
Yeah, 100%. But again, overall, like, not bad. But I mean, before we get into making our new list, maybe let's talk about what our expectations are for the Pistons for the rest of the season. We can talk about James Wiseman's debut because we haven't been able to discuss that yet. James Wiseman did get to finally make his Pistons debut against the Boston Celtics. And overall, I would say, guys, had a pretty good first outing, all things considered. He came out against the reigning, a reigning finals team, the best team in the Eastern Conference. And, he played about 17 minutes, I believe. I'm getting the full box score up here right now. James Wiseman, he actually played 24 minutes and had 11 points, 5 of 9 shooting, 5 rebounds. He was he should have been credited with a block as well. But now that we have been able to see about 25 minutes of James Wiseman basketball, which granted is still an insanely small sample size. And again, this guy has still not played a lot of basketball in his career as a whole.
Right.
Jeff, Troy, what were your thoughts of James Wiseman's performance? And now that you know what this team looks like down the stretch, what do you want to see now that we're post All-Star break?
I would say I was pretty satisfied with James Wiseman overall. I mean, given the circumstances, to be traded mid-season when you haven't been playing at all and to go to a new team and play 24 minutes, like that was the first time in James Wiseman's career he's played against the Celtics. Like think about that too as well. Like so I don't really have an opinion on James yet. I think the only thing I that's still in question, the one thing that concerned me was always being healthy. And I need to see that play out. The skill set, not surprised. It was nice to see him get involved early. I know he even drew a double team pretty quickly into the game. So, I mean, there's not much to say. Sadiq Bey, I watched him too with the Atlanta Hawks, so I got to see him. But I like Wiseman. I've always said too, I was overreactive when it first got announced, but I think we all talked about that. What we want to see from him moving forward is just see what we have. And it's not just Wiseman. That goes for this entire team, I think. I mean, you're really, it's not really the record at this point. I think we all can admit that. It's more of just player evaluation. Who's staying and who's going, who's a part of the future. And James Wiseman is included in that conversation. So going down the stretch, I'm looking at the rookies. I'm looking at Killian Hayes because he's been struggling too. There's a couple players I'm keyed in on. Duran, obviously. But again, it's for Wiseman, he just has to be comfortable. Don't I mean, for James Wiseman, I know he has high expectations for himself. At the end of the day, like, just go out and play, man. Like, just play basketball. I think the more reps he gets, he'll be better. But I was satisfied with what I saw to Wiseman. I really was.
Are these the most important game? Are these the most important 23 games of Killian Hayes' career?
Yeah. I also think the second, not second, third, but the games 20 to games 30 this season, I thought were very important as well. And he had good performances, but I would say this trumps that of most important.
Oh, that's way important than that now, because with all due respect to those games, you know, like, it was important for him at the time to show like what he could do and the fact that he could grow and evolve. But the problem is he's dipped again. And even with like that surge in play, like, and even with the improved version of Killian Hayes that we're seeing, I mean, like, it's not like we can say anymore that Killian Hayes hasn't had opportunities. Like, he's almost 150 games into his career, and 150 games in, he's still a career 8 points a game, 38% from the field, 28% from three. Like, survey says he's still bad offensively. You know what I mean? So like, as good as that stretch in December, like, you know, in like November and December was, like, to me, Killian's got to prove at this point why he should be our backup point guard. Because quite frankly, if the Pistons are going to want to start winning games, I mean, guys, we talk about, you know, like how important and how crucial it was to have guys like Lindsey Hunter. Shout out Lindsey Hunter. You know, guys like Carlos Arroyo, guys like Will Bynum, you know, those guys who are, you know, your spark plugs off the bench who come in and play, you know, like who play crucial basketball, but also, you know, can get you a bucket if they need to. With Killian, we have no idea what we're getting from him on a night-to-night basis still.
Yeah. Right.
And this league is unapologetic too. Like, there's always going to be someone to take your spot. And I think the benefit Killian's had, and Troy, I'll let you speak more on this, is just the situation he's in right now. There's not really a lot of pressure. And Dwayne even came out and said that early in the year. When you start raising those expectations for your ball club, and you're bringing in guys, you're bringing in the best 15 players. Killian Hayes, his job is going to become more at risk. Like right now, it's safe for the season, but to your point, Sean, this is the most important stretch of games in his career. If in your third year you can't shoot above 40% from the field, like we have an issue. Like that's it. Typically in any other team that's competing, you're not playing. So for Killian, it's not about what he brings defensively. It's great. Not about what he brings playmaking wise. That's great. But if you're a liability offensively, it's going to be tough to carve a career out in this league. Like if you can't be somewhat efficient. So all the hope is best for Killian. I want him to succeed, obviously. And I like what the characteristics, I like the skill set he has, but offensively, man, it's bad. And in this league, if you can't get it together, you're done. Like it's that easy.
Even there's still the personal foul issue with Killian as well. Like there's still like I still think on the nights that he's struggling on the defensive end, it is really leaking into the offensive end as well. You know, like I think the other piece of it, and again, like this is where it's like, well, is this fair to Killian? Well, it's like, well, you know, like it doesn't really matter if it's fair to Killian. Ever since January, Jaden Ivey has been excellent. Like he's been averaging 15 points, almost 6 assists, 4 rebounds on 44% shooting, 36% from 3. And quite frankly, he's doing everything that we like, everything that we loved for what Killian was doing, but better. And like we're seeing already, like Jaden Ivey's a great playmaker. And he's shown legitimate reasons why he needs to have the ball in his hands and he needs to run the offense too. And if we get to a situation where we draft yet another guard this offseason, I mean, guys, the writing's just on the wall. I mean, Killian's days are numbered, no?
Yeah, and especially when Bones Highland was taken 26th overall, and he's already cut. Like it doesn't matter where you're drafted at in this league. If you can't play, you can't play.
Yeah, I was going to say I haven't gone on Wiseman yet, but I'm going to go for Killian first, then Wiseman. I think Killian for his 3-point percentage. I think for me that needs to be the number one thing he gets. You talk about the offensive end, Jeff, but shooting the ball at a high efficiency in the NBA is so important in the guard position. And the 3-point shot, like we've seen, obviously with the Warriors' success and another guard, he just 28 is just too low. I mean, even if he was at 33, 34, that's an improvement.
But the 33, 34 is his straight field goal percentage.
Right. Which makes, 3-point shot, number one, and then just scoring the ball would be the thing. And as far as Wiseman goes, in his future, I still think just that move in itself, very low risk. And I still think that, what we saw against Boston, he's able to play those minutes. He's able to compete. I think he's a guy that wants to play competitive basketball. I think he's a hungry guy as far as getting offensive touches and being present on the defensive end. And I just think as he matures and as he gets older, I think the defense is going to start getting better. I think the defense is really the big reason why we got him in here. But hey, if he can score with a little post hook in the paint, hey, if he can grab some offensive boards and putbacks, I mean, that's exactly what we need out of him. And we saw a little glimpse of that just in the first game.
And he's got a jumper too. That's something that he hasn't been able. He's displayed a little bit, but once he gets more run, that's one thing I'm going to be interested in him spacing the floor, because I do think he can do that. I think right now he's more of, I just need to play and I need to play well. I'm not too worried about shooting threes.
And that's exactly it, man. He's just getting started. He's just scratching the surface. So for me with Wiseman, it's just interesting because, I'm just fascinated to see his development, but at the same time, I'm almost wondering when it becomes a similar issue to when he was in Golden State of, does it become a point where Detroit has a different timeline than James Wiseman's development, right? Like, is there a point where we are starting to win more and we can't quite tolerate those same mistakes? Like, because that could start to be a little bit more of the case as soon as next year. I mean, there's a legitimate chance that the Pistons could end up with a guy named Victor Wembanyama, who, guys, has been who was previously measured, and according to ESPN, is 7'5" with shoes. So that front court is pretty loaded already in Detroit. It'd be a freaking log jam if you throw a guy like Wemby in there, So
and you already have Bagley coming off your bench next year.
Mm-hmm. But then position basketball would be dead. I mean, positionless basketball would be more alive than ever on any NBA roster that Victor Wembanyama lands on.
Yeah. It already, I feel like it already is. I feel like teams like Oklahoma City and and even the Raptors, I feel like it's just positionless utopia.
Yeah,
especially the Nets. The Nets are positionless. That they're just all lanky wings.
Yeah, I think they had Michael or Cam at the 2 one night. I'm like, wow, they don't give a damn. And I actually appreciate that, but the difference is you got to have guys that
give a damn when you got Cam.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
He could shoot that thing too. But you got to be able to do multiple things. And I think that's part of it. That's why the Raptors, you're able to get away with stuff like that. If you have Bagley and Wiseman playing together, if Wiseman can develop the skill set we think he can, and he can space the floor, then you bet they could. I mean, even Duran and him could play together if he develops that. But if you can't space the floor and you got Bagley who can't shoot and Wiseman who can't shoot, again, the whole fit thing is a little overrated. This team stinks. I don't care about the fit right now.
Yeah,
you're gonna figure all that out in the offseason, but it's worth talking about the future.
Yeah, well, speaking of you don't worry about fit. One more thing I want to talk about with the All-Star break, guys. Scoot Henderson was available and played during the Rising Stars Challenge. And during his media availability, Scoot Henderson was asked what type, like who he wants to play with and what types of players he wants to play with in the NBA. And Scoot Henderson said that he would love to play with guys like Chris Paul and John Morant. Now, why are those two comparisons so interesting?
Because Ivy is Morant and Cade Cunningham is a 6'6", 6'7" Chris Paul, Sean.
Exactly, Troy. It's like you watched my video today.
I never watched any video, Sean.
But I mean, Cade is literally a 6'7" Chris Paul. Like, as far as the way he plays the game, as far as how methodical he is as a point guard. And Jaden Ivey is quite literally is at the infant stages of what John Morant's game is, right? So when I hear that comparison, I'm not saying that he's flat out saying he wants to play in Detroit. However, it does make me think, guys, because we talked about, we talked about how the Pistons were invested in that 3-guard lineup with Killian, Ivy and Cade. All I'm saying is I don't think it would be bad if we ended up with Scoot, Ivy, and Cade either. Like, that would be pretty freaking tantalizing. What are your guys' thoughts?
You'll take that every day of the week, twice on Sunday, baby. Especially the way the NBA is moving. Like, Cade's at his height, 6'6". The guy can play small forward. He can. And if you end up drafting Scoot, you figure it out. I think at this point, it's just best player available. I mean, I like guys like Brandon Miller's been someone I've been talking about, but that's like if you have the 3rd pick, the 4th pick, then you make those types of decisions. If you're 1 or 2, like especially Victor, I mean, obviously we talk about the seamless fit there, but with Scoot, it's like, hey, you draft the best player, and besides Victor, it is Scoot. So, yeah, I love it. And another thing is, you can tell he wants to play not only with another guard, but he wants to play with guys that can get him the ball, right? Guys that can play make. And you get 2 of those guys if you come to Detroit. So it's a good situation to be in.
Yeah, and I've said this before. I mean, without a Victor Wembanyama, this is a clear-cut first overall pick. And I know you can say that with any draft of the number 2 pick. Yep. But this draft is more noticeable in that department because of Victor Wembanyama is such a freak of nature and such a generational type player that, again, it's rare that we even see a guy like him. So if we just have a scenario where doesn't exist, I mean, Scoot is the clear number 1 pick. That would be no different than getting the number 1 pick in any other draft is what I'm trying to get at. So a number 2 pick in this draft is like getting a number 1 pick in any other draft, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, like, people are like, oh, well, why do you continue to draft all these guards? Like, don't the Pistons need a wing? Well, I mean, guys, like, not to keep bringing this team up, but the Cleveland Cavaliers a few years ago drafted Colin Sexton 1 year, and then the next year drafted Darius Garland. And everyone looked at them like, what the hell are you guys doing? Are you guys stupid? And what did they do? They found the player that fit their system better. They eventually put Colin Sexton in a package to get them who?
Yep, there you go. It's you're not in the
Thank you, Troy.
fit. You're not in the draft for fit stage. You're in the draft for talent stage. Like, they just need talent. So if you want to say, well, they don't need another guard, I don't. Especially when you have Cade. I could see if Cade was 6'1", Ivy 6'2", and you're going to draft another guy who's 6'2". Like, even then, you make an argument. You'll probably take the best guard available. But 6'6", 6'4", like, come on.
Yeah, 100%, man. But listen, as we all know, Detroit's going to be just fine no matter what position they land in. We're going to be talking about all different scenarios, all different possibilities, and we're going to be diving into all that. But, guys, let's real quick put together what we think is our NBA tier list for the rest of the season. I think this will be a lot quicker than last time because last time we had to go through all the different qualifiers. This time we know what the list is. We know what's happening. We know what the deal is, right? So,
but this still might be fun to look at game 1 of the NBA Finals. Just see how things played out,
You bet.
100%. 100%. Well, yeah, because that's the thing is, as much as we think even we know now, we know even 23 games can still change a ton of different things because players could get injured. There could be like a ton of different things that happen. So, and then the other thing too, we're going to start seeing more and more teams tanking as well and changing direction in that way. So, I'm interested to see how it's going to ultimately shake out. But, guys, as we remember, our 5 tiers were contenders. We had high seed. We had play in. We had mid, play in, and going for victor. So let me get this set up and then we can go ahead and get started. I'll just cut this out later when I
going for victor first though.
Oh yeah, we'll do going for victor first because that'll be easy. Sorry, guys.
Pistons in there first.
Yeah, they actually already locked them up. They said that we could just take them home. All right, perfect. Yep. All right. Here we go. All right. So there's going to be all these ads and bold on the screen, but we don't care. Guys, let's go ahead and get started. The going for Victor tab. This is going to be pretty easy. Let's just start there.
Charlotte.
Shall we? I mean, guys, we said when we were putting this together that in order for them to make a play and run, a lot of things would have to go right. And guys, nothing went right.
Nope.
I would say, in fact, everything went wrong. Murphy's Law happened in that sumbitch. Not a good season for the Detroit Pistons at all. However, they're in the Wemby sweepstakes. And joining them,
Houston?
Houston, definitely there. San Antonio,
Charlotte.
You're definitely. Charlotte. Yep.
Charlotte's in there too.
Yep. Who else is in there, Troy?
I kind of think Pacers.
Well, if you're going to put the Pacers, you got to put the Magic because they're better than the Magic.
Right, Magic first.
So,
but also, I mean, Tyrese.
I actually think this column is smaller than last time. I feel like these are really the 4 teams that are just really bad. Right?
Yeah, right now the Magic are like 4 or 5 games out, maybe 6 games out, 5 games from the play-in. So I think that's fair. If you put them all up in the plan.
Like cuz they're not playing for nothing at this point, right?
Right. Sure.
Right. Cuz the Pacers, they're still trying to make a run for the play-in. Orlando, they're like, "Oh, well, who knows? Like we could try to make a run and get better down the stretch."
You can even do Portland and Utah there too.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Portland, Lakers, I guess they're in there.
Portland and Utah are the quintessential play-in teams. Yeah, the Lakers, they're a play-in team too.
New York.
Yep, New York. Which, by the way, I don't think I've seen a trade get more overrated than Josh Hart to the Knicks. Everyone's like, "Oh, well, Josh Hart, he's a really good player. Knicks got better." I'm like, did they? Like, Josh Hart's kind of mid.
Yeah.
And he's shooting the 3 worse than he ever has. Can we cool it on calling guys like, "Oh, he's gonna be a big help." Like, shut up. You know what I'm saying?
Wizards.
But, yeah, they have 33 wins. They're not too far out from the 9th and 10th seed. And that's what's crazy about the West too. Even the Lakers, like they have 27 wins. Obviously, Portland 28, Utah 29. They're only like 3 or 4 games from like the 5th seed. So like the West is unbelievably close. But I'd still say they're playing.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, guys, even, like a team that at the beginning of the year I thought could be a contender. Now, it's like we had them in mid, but now like they're more so in the play-in because of how their season's kind of slid. The Pelicans, I think they're a year away, but even then, guys, for them, it's just coming down to like, can Zion consistently play basketball or not?
Right.
Like at a certain point, they need to see something they need to see some encouraging signs because as awesome as Zion looked earlier this year, he's been gone for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm a Pelicans fan, I'm getting more and more regretful about the fact that we passed up on Ja Morant by the day. And yeah, it's getting bad.
Wizards.
So who's next?
Wizards.
Yeah, Wizards, they're definitely a play-in team, 100%. But I think as far as the play-in teams, that's about it, right? I mean, like, I can't really think of anyone else a lot. Oh, the Nets. The Nets are probably a play-in team,
Well,
but I could put them in mid too.
Yeah,
because
but
I
they're,
would be-
they,
I would be
they're
cool
fifth in the
mid.
West right now. You might,
Yeah.
I would
And
put 'em-
Atlanta's a tough too. But Brooklyn for sure mid. I would put John.
Okay, yeah, I'm good with putting them mid. I would put Atlanta in mid as well, just because of the fact that they still have Trae Young, they still have like the high power, offense and everything like that. And like, even though like they're kind of like they're still in that tier to like be like to probably end up being like a play-in team. I think of all of the teams that are in the play-in tournament right now in the East, which currently are the Knicks, the Heat, the Hawks, the Wizards. So it's actually the Heat, the Hawks, the Wizards, and the Raptors. I think they're by far the most likely to make a run and to be the team that's above the play-in standings.
They were an Eastern Conference team 2 short years ago.
And I think the Heat are
finals.
Yeah, even Eastern Conference Finals, right?
The Heat as of today are a play-in, but they're basically 2 wins away from being out of the play-in. So the Heat, they just added Kevin Love. I can make an argument they're mid.
Yeah, I think they are.
They're a play-in team.
Listen, yeah. I think the Heat are. I think they are a situation that I would love to dedicate a podcast segment solely to the Heat one of these weeks, because I think it's gone under discussed the some of the dysfunction in Miami over the course of the years, which is crazy to say or crazy to consider, because like this team was a shot from going to the finals last year. Mm-hmm. This team made it to the finals in 2020, but like at the same time, how many bad contracts can they have? Yeah, how many bad free agent signings and trades, and like also how many different undrafted free agents can make up a team? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's crazy. It's just crazy. I just, I love Pat Riley, but I think he's off his rocker a little bit with what's going on in Miami some of these days.
Now, Sacramento, are we going to put them as a high seed or a mid?
I mean, I think they're a high seed. I think they're the definition of a high seed, where they look really good, but you don't expect, but like they're either a first or second round exit in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Or like, in the regular season, they're a really solid team. Yeah. They're consistent. Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox are playing really good basketball. They're a tough home court team, but at the end of the day, they're like, this team is the 2010 Atlanta Hawks. They're going to get 50 or 60 wins. They're going to look really good doing it, and they'll be home by the middle of March. So or they'll be home by the middle of April.
You got to put Cleveland there then.
This is probably the toughest one, because I think Sacramento will lose to all the teams we have left in a playoff series. But they also are playing well. So yeah, I don't have a problem with it. You put them at high seed.
Well, yeah, because here's the catch-22. If the playoffs were to end today, the current playoff matchups would have the Sacramento Kings hosting the Dallas Mavericks in a playoff series.
Oof.
Do you think, even with the defensive woes and some of the things that we're concerned with the Mavericks, do you think this Kings team could beat the Mavericks 4 times?
No.
The other alternative, if this team rises up, they would face the New Orleans Pelicans. If healthy, do you think this team could beat the New Orleans Pelicans 4 times?
That game would go that would go 7 games, and no, I don't think so.
Healthy Zion, no Zion, yes.
Yeah, but even then, that would still go to 6 or 7 without Zion, right?
Yeah.
And then if this team slips, they would have the potential of hosting the Phoenix Suns in the first round.
Just pack your bags.
Yeah,
like that's what I'm saying. It's like there's no win, because then even then they're listen, there's no shot that I think they're gonna I think they're firmly where they're gonna be in the standings. I think the Clippers, they're gonna be what they're gonna be. I think we know what they are at this point, right? Which I think the Clippers, they're another they're a high seed to mid.
Yeah.
But like, I think with the Kawhi factor, the fact that like, like he's been looking better and better as the season's gone on, there's still that little thing of could the Clippers make some noise in the playoffs?
Yeah, they're teetering.
But at the same time, they have a worse overall net rating than the Washington Wizards. So it's like
that's not.
It's like one of those things where they've like, even though like Kawhi's starting to look better and better, like I'm of the opinion that like I get that people think the regular season matters less and less. And even though I agree to a certain extent, I think it still matters. And I think if you didn't do something dominant or do something to give your team some confidence in the regular season, I think it's impossible to make a full run in the playoffs. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, the only thing I think that's holding the Clippers back is the cohesiveness. They've had a roster that's not only been hurt, but they just made some moves at the deadline that I like. Bones, Eric Gordon, now they got Russell, which, whatever it is. Now you're going to throw those guys in a rotation. Like it's a lot they're going to have to overcome. I like the Clippers, but I don't think they've earned the right to be contenders.
Exactly.
Hate the Russell move for them.
Yeah,
by the way.
Right. It hurts them more than helps them.
I think you invited. I think that was the most Los Angeles Clippers move they could have made. I think you're inviting unnecessary chaos and distraction into the locker room. They're wanting to play this role of just being a high effort, rebounding, playmaking, defensive guy. Which, I mean, if he accepts that role and actually excels at it, maybe. But even then, like, he would still be having to play a very limited minute set in a playoff series.
Yeah.
And Russ on your team just naturally having the ball in his hands more means ball in the hands less for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And that's just not good. You don't want that for your team.
Yeah, it's going to become the same issue for Kawhi that it was for LeBron.
Yeah.
Yeah, you traded away John because he couldn't shoot, and you signed somebody that can't shoot. But
if I'm constructing a team to win around LeBron James, it's the exact same way I'm building a team to win around Kawhi Leonard. You know what I mean? Like the only thing is like I would need a more dependable star alongside Kawhi because Kawhi is going to miss way more games than LeBron. But the same principles apply. You want guys who can play hard defense but also can shoot the basketball because both Kawhi and LeBron are playmakers that can get their own shot, but can also find creators and find shot makers for open shots, right? But
I would even say, and I know this is projection. I know Dallas is only 2 games above 500. They're mid. They haven't earned the right yet, even though they have talent, like what they're building. But still, they it's tough. I don't really know what the Mavericks are right now, to be honest with you.
Listen. Offensively, they can put on a masterclass. Like Kyrie and Luka at times have looked incredible together.
Yeah.
But watch that dap up between LeBron and Kyrie on Sunday and Luka watching in the background. And you tell me Kyrie's going to be a Dallas Maverick next season. Because it ain't happening, fam. It ain't happening. He's going to Los Angeles. And watching Luka just sit there, like watching them dap up, just like I'm screwed. Like we just gave up Dorian Finney-Smith, a first-round pick, literally the last assets our franchise had to trade away for a guy that's going to leave me in 3 months. Like
a rental player, right?
Oh,
tough.
Oh,
Warriors in the standing, Sean, are mid. Are they going to stay there? Is the question.
That's the thing. So here's the thing, man. I know this defies all logic and the rules that we have for what this list is. And
you know what to do.
I'm just going to do it, guys.
You know what to do. Yep.
I mean, listen, they're the reigning, defending, undisputed NBA champions of the world. When healthy, Steph Curry is still that guy. Klay Thompson is even better than he was last year, and they made a run with a hobbled Klay. Imagine a healthy Klay and a healthy Steph with alongside Draymond, who still looks really good. And I mean, listen, man, get Gary Payton the second healthy and back and effective alongside Wiggins. Alongside like guys like Dante DiVincenzo, guys like Jonathan Kuminga, who's been playing better. Like
They just got to get in.
Yeah, they just gotta be there, man. That's all it is. And then because if you look at like a lot of the stats, like the best 5-man lineup in the NBA still belongs to the Golden State Warriors. When Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Jordan Poole, and I believe it's Kevon Looney. When all five of those guys are on a court together, it's Wiggins. I apologize. It's Wiggins. When all 5 of those guys are on a court together, they're still statistically the best team in the league. So I personally, even though the West is even better than it was, I still have a hard time seeing teams match up. It's going to be Phoenix and Golden State and everyone else to me.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think the last 7 teams, it's not who's a contender, it's who isn't a contender. I think of these last 7. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yep. So let's start here. I think of the teams remaining. I think obviously Milwaukee's up there.
Celtics. They
obviously Boston's up there. I'm gonna go out and say
I think
Denver, for how great they've been, they deserve to be up there. We still haven't even seen Jokic, like a dominant Jokic with a healthy roster yet. So inherently, the fact that he has a healthy, deep roster, they deserve to be contenders.
Yeah.
To me, Phoenix deserves to be contenders. To me, all 3 of these teams to me are high seeds.
I agree with you, except Memphis. I think Cleveland and Philly are definitely high seeds, but I still put Memphis. I know that they have a lot to learn still, but John,
but Troy, it's not just the fact that Memphis, like, listen, I think Memphis, like, they're still one of the youngest teams in the league, but also you look at what this team has been like since Ja made those like comments about we're fine in the West, like specifically since the middle of January, this team's been a disaster, and they're one of the worst. They're one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the league. Their offensive rating is 18th in the NBA, which is surprising for a team that has been as good as they've been. Granted, still one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, and I count on that 100%. But with the culture they have, the roster they have, Troy, are you telling me you trust Dylan Brooks in a playoff series to not get in some trouble and cause some antics? Like, are you telling me that you don't expect like John Morant, like this roster and some of the crap they've gotten into this season alone? Are you telling me in a tense 7-game playoff series against a Golden State or a Denver, they're not going to slip up and do something stupid? Like to me, they're they are the team to me in the West where everything would have to go right, everything would have to click, and Ja would have to have a generational playoff performance for him to get to the finals. And even then, that's just to get there.
To me, I'm thinking more Western Conference. Like, to me, a contender is a Western Conference Finals team. And
sure.
I can see a reality where they make it. Now, no, everything you said is true, Sean. I'm not trying to argue. I will not argue with anything you said. But all I'm saying is this team could make the Western Conference Finals. And the fact that they could tells me that they have to be a contender.
But Troy, my counter argument to that, and the reason why I would put them in high seed is that I would say the road to them getting to the Western Conference Finals is now a lot harder than it was for them to get there. Right? Before Kevin Durant, I would agree with you that this is one of the teams that is a lock to get to the Western Conference Finals. But now, Troy, it's not even just Kevin Durant anymore. Now it's Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving together. Now, even though with Dallas, I could see Dallas being out in the first round and not winning a single game. Mm-hmm. I could also see Dallas being in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah.
I could see the Clippers being in the Western Conference Finals. I could there are now, to me, Troy, 6 teams in the West that have a legitimate case to get to that game. And if I were to put a ranking of where I think Memphis belongs in that list, I'd say 4th or 5th right now.
Yep.
Jeff, deciding vote.
I would say high seed. I'm going to be honest with you. Because if you just look at the high seed teams, and I know this isn't relevant necessarily to the argument, but the Clippers are and the Kings are. But if you just match the Grizzlies up with any of those 4 teams, I think the Cavaliers, the Clippers, healthy, the Kings, even those teams would give the Grizzlies a good series. I don't think they would beat, personally, right now with how the Grizzlies are playing, they wouldn't beat any of those contenders. I don't see a way.
Like, not only to me would they not beat any of these contenders, to me in particular, I just focus like obviously I don't think they'd beat Milwaukee. I don't think they beat Boston. But even just in the Western Conference, I don't see them beating the Warriors 4 times with how much the Warriors are in their head. Like, once the Warriors are locked in a playoff series, I don't see the Warriors losing to them 4 times right now.
Yeah.
If the playoffs were to start today, teams are fully healthy, who's available. I personally think the Warriors would win that series. I personally think Denver is the deepest team in the West. And, I don't think, and as good as Jaren Jackson Jr. is, Jokic would put that man in foul trouble within 20 seconds. And then, I mean, guys, it's Kevin freaking Durant. Do we even have to say why I think Phoenix would win that series?
Yeah.
Like that's where my head is, Troy.
And
Is that fair?
No, the
It's fair.
Grizzlies
It's
to
all
me have to prove it. Like, I've heard all this talk for the last 2 years, and I got to see it before I assume they're contenders because of what Josh said or with what their regular season record looks like.
And that's where I'm at with them. To me, they have been the most vocal team about thinking they're next up and taking the next step. That, to me, Troy, they're in the prove it stage. They're in the growing pains. Like, they are figuring out what's the difference between really good teams and great teams, because I think they're going through the growing pains of figuring out what changes they need to make. Because I'm just going to say it straight up, I think it was a massive mistake that they didn't move on from Dylan Brooks at this trade deadline. Yeah. I think that's something that they should have looked to do, and the fact that it was not on their mind, in my opinion, is a mistake.
And they weren't as aggressive to add anybody, which is kind of concerning too. Like,
I mean, they reportedly were making calls and were offering picks. Like, I think part of it, I think OG Anunoby would have been a really good trade for them. I think, unfortunately, Toronto just didn't want to play ball. You know what I mean? Right. And then, I think Mikal Bridges would have been another really good trade for them, or even Kevin Durant. But in both cases, Brooklyn didn't want to play ball. You know what I mean? So it's just interesting. But at the same time, to your point, were they assertive in those calls? I don't know.
Yeah, I think we nailed it. I like this list.
Yeah, I think we did too. And I'm excited to see how the season winds down. Obviously, I know we didn't talk about the moves and the improvements the Lakers made, but I mean, listen, they'll just be glad if they make it to the play-in at this point. With they've dug themselves such a deep hole with keeping Russ. It's gonna be a whole thing, man. 100%
out of it.
Oh yeah, but guys, you know how we wrap up these episodes. You know how it goes downtown. We got to start with my guy Jeff. Jeff, last week we played some contenders or pretenders. Jeff, what you got for us this week?
So I'm calling this segment today "Battle of the Buyout Market." All right,
Battle of the Buyout.
So I love the buyout market, by the way, because you always see it's like free agency in the middle of the season. So you get to see moves. And you saw 2 players sign recently, and I'm sure you guys know where I'm going with this. I want you to decide, and you can give your reasons why, what buyout move affects which team more, which move moves the needle for which team I'm going to name. The first one being, and I kind of hinted at it earlier, Kevin Love going to the Miami Heat, and then you have Russell Westbrook going to the Clippers. The Clippers and the Heat actually they're only 1 win apart, despite the standing differences. Obviously, the Heat a little more higher than, the Clippers a little more higher than the Heat, but still 2 teams that wanted to make moves to improve their rosters. But I'll pose the question to you guys: which buyout move will impact their respective teams more? Kevin Love, Russell Westbrook.
Troy, do you want me to go first, or do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'll go first. To be honest, I don't think either are massive like Rasheed Wallace type of buyout market deal where, you're going to be competing for a championship. But I just, in my opinion, Russ hurts your team too much than he helps them. Therefore, by default, I have to go with Kevin Love, Miami. He hasn't been seeing a ton of minutes of late in Cleveland, but I think that'll change in Miami, getting a little more minutes. I think being a good rotational player on your second unit will be a great thing for the Heat. I just think it's a move it's a step in the right direction for the Heat organization. And by default, but more of a by default than anything, it's going to be a more Kevin Love thing than Russ helping the Clippers compete for a championship.
So Troy and I have very similar reasoning, but our answers are completely different. I'm going with Russell Westbrook to the Clippers. I think he's going to have more of an effect on his team, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a positive effect. He's going to have he's going to have more of an effect than Kevin Love's going to have, but in the negative direction, because he's going to bring drama. He's going to bring chaos. He's going to bring shitty basketball play. It's like, in my opinion, they would have been better off of keeping John Wall.
Yeah.
So I personally I think Kevin Love can contribute and be solid, and like that Miami team can be scrappy, but like, does it change what their ceiling is? Like, I think they win one or two more games in the first or second round.
Yeah, no,
I
100% agree. And
whereas this could completely tank the Clippers season. This could completely throw off whatever momentum they have.
Yeah, and you could the argument, I think you guys both made it, is pretty much Kevin Love doesn't command the basketball. Like, so Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, it doesn't hurt their usage a whole lot. Like, Kevin Love isn't going to sit here and command the basketball. He's going to get touches, but not like Russell Westbrook. Russell's going to need the ball in his hands. And I like how you put it, Sean. He could affect them negatively, more negatively. So if you're going with that as your answer, I agree. I think Russell, it'll come back to bite them in the ass, because with your point about John Wall, why get rid of John Wall because he can't shoot when Russell can't shoot? Like, it's a lateral move to me, and it's because PG, Paul George and him have such a great relationship, but it's not going to save the Clippers.
But John Wall wasn't a massive piece in their rotation anyways. Like, he was
he was a backup point guard.
Right. And not just
which is what Russell be as well, by the way.
He easily could have had an ego, John Wall, but he really didn't. Like, he played his role. And to find an ex-star, I'll call him that, an ex-star who's able to play a role like that, like to me, that's humbling and valuable. Why would you move on from that?
I think in fairness, I think Russ would be coming into this situation to play a role. Like, that's exactly what this situation is. Like,
it doesn't mean you won't hurt him in his role.
Right.
Like, to your point.
Right. Yeah. 100%. I think it's going to be, my popcorn's ready. That's all I'm saying.
I'll give the slight edge of the Heat. I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah. 100%. The Heat made the better move, but the Clippers might be more effective.
Nicely put.
Oh man. But one last thing, you know what we got to do, Troy. It's time to close it out with a beautiful segment of From Mount Rushmore. Troy, what you got for us today?
Yeah, I got a good one today. So if you remember last year, I think after the All-Star game, we did Mount Rushmore of worst All-Star players of all time, meaning those one-time All-Stars who you're scratching your head and asking how the heck did they become an All-Star. I think Kyle Korver got on that list. We're going in a different direction, but a similar type of theme. I want you both to check your phones right now, because I found a good picture of some quality guys. Best players to never make an All-Star game. Ooh. 0 All-Stars on these guys' resumes. But we're going best players of all time to have 0 All-Stars on their resumes. Plenty of guys to choose from. Some guys that I was shocked didn't even make one. I guess I'll start. A guy that's still in the league. Now, this guy wouldn't be an All-Star today, of course, but 8-9 years ago, he was playing some pretty darn good basketball for a Memphis Grizzlies squad. Rudy Gay was putting up All-Star numbers at one point in his career, especially being the number one option on that Grizzlies team back in 2010, 11. But the league was deep that year, especially in the Western Conference. So I guess I understand why he never made one. But man, I mean, Rudy Gay's an NBA vet. He plays the game the right way. To me, if you were to ask me before this, how many All-Stars did Rudy Gay make? I thought I might have said one. I just might have, without knowing that it was zero.
I mean, he's been a guy that's been at least solid for like a while. Like he's been a long time fixture in rotations and starting lineups. And he's just a guy that flew under the radar, just played good basketball. It's mind-boggling. A guy that I personally, when I look at, like his, like what he was at his height, the overall talent and the, quality of play that we saw from this guy. And quite frankly, with the notoriety he had, the team he was on, the players he was playing with, Lamar Odom. I mean, guys, this is a guy who had all-star talent, who had all-star caliber seasons, who played all-star caliber basketball at one point in his career. I mean, Lamar Odom had everything and more to be an all-star at one point. Like, you could argue he had the ceiling to be more than an all-star. But we all know what happened with Lamar Odom. We all know the tale. We all know who was on crack. But, like at the end of the day, like, just first of all, glad to see, Lamar happy and healthy and, not on crack. Also, more importantly, his career really was something to marvel. And in his time with Kobe and that team with him and Powell, like, they were dangerous, man.
I'm going to go with a player that's currently playing and a player that I think in his current role, there is potential for him to make an all-star team. That's CJ McCollum.
Yeah.
A guy who had to share a backcourt with arguably one of the best point guards in the NBA for a long period of time. And he never really had his own team. Now he has that.
How he's never been an all-star. I was like, what?
No, a career 40%, 39.5 technically, 3-point shooter for his career. It's absurd. He's averaged 20 points in multiple seasons. Now it's getting on a handful of seasons. I don't think he ever gets the respect he truly deserves. A lot of that is because of the market he's in, obviously from Portland to now with New Orleans, playing behind Dame Lillard, now playing really, people know Zion in New Orleans over at CJ McCollum. I think he gets super underrated for his career. And another player I want to bring up too, Steven Jackson. I don't think I think people forget how good Steven Jackson was in his prime. I think there was a couple years, especially those Golden State years, you could make an argument he could be an all-star. And I'm a big fan of his podcast now, so I'm a little biased. But those are the two that immediately came to mind when I looked at the list.
Yeah, I mean, guys, a couple other players that stood out to me. Richard Jefferson.
Oh, Mike Bibby for me.
Bibby.
Yeah, Mike Bibby, another one. But guys, Jason Terry too.
Yeah.
Jason Terry was a stud back in the day on the Atlanta Hawks. He was awesome, on the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, Jason Terry was a long-time bucket getter himself.
True.
Other guys, I see Marcus Camby is another guy on here. Yeah. Rod Strickland, Sam Perkins. Like, there's a lot of good NBA players from all time, man.
Jamal Crawford, big one.
Not too many guys scored 50 like Jamal did. So I never, he always was underrated.
And few guys were a certified show every night like Jamal.
Yeah. And maybe this summer, when we get bored and maybe we go down memory lane with legacies, talking about legacies, maybe some of these guys on this list are guys that we talk about. I'm looking here, Lou Williams, Andre Miller, Jason Terry, Richard Jefferson, Serge Ibaka, Al Jefferson. These are guys that their legacy, we all know the names, we all know the faces, we all know the stats, but these guys are not all-stars. These guys are certainly not Hall of Famers. I mean, their legacy is going to be what our generation tells the next generation of NBA players about,
Yeah. Well, but it also just shows like the level of talent that these are the guys that are like, these are the quality of guys that were right on the brink, right? Like you bring up a guy like Serge Ibaka, like, we're never going to talk about, like the greatness of Serge Ibaka, but like when we think of those Oklahoma City Thunder teams and how dominant they were and how great it was with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, a big part of it was Serge Ibaka and the level of play he was at, the shot blocking ability he had, his ability to shoot threes. Like he was the revolutionary like stretch five Like if you really think about it. So like it's like, yeah, like there's, you know, like you talk about like it's like, yeah, like even though they might not be like be remembered in the same way or in the same light or have the accolades that these, you know, other all-stars had, like they still have legacies, they still have stories, and you know, yeah, it's just crazy. Like the level of talent's crazy, man. I have a feeling 10 years from now, the list of guys who's never made the all-star game is going to be crazy stupid.
Yeah,
I agree.
Like, because like the reason why CJ McCollum hasn't made it is because you talk about the amount of quality shooting guards there are in the Western Conference.
it's a lot.
I mean, guys, it's just unfair. Like he's in a conference with Damian Lillard, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, John Morant. Like that's just the backcourt alone. Now add Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, like that. Like it is just, it's crazy.
He can't compete, even though he's a heck of a player.
Yeah, exactly. Like even De'Aaron Fox, he got his team up to the top of the conference, and even then, he only got in as a reserve this year.
Yeah, and any other year, that guy would not be a reserved all-star. De'Aaron Fox is playing great basketball, guys.
Yeah. Which I was definitely wrong on that, by the way. But we don't have to talk about that. That's fine. But anyway, but guys, that is going to do it for this week's episode of From Half Court. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Be sure you follow my guys, Jeff and Troy, on Twitter at Trey5Brady and at TroySergey44. Also, be sure you subscribe and like this video, and make sure you're checking out more content here on the channel. But with that, folks, I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure you subscribe.